Right now, we're seeing in the marketplace that e-commerce continues to grow. However, many shoppers, 70% of shoppers, are still not buying online. So in that context, the first question is, how important is the online space for brands? Nathan.
One of the things we noticed was that throwing bone to Amazon here in general is the more people went to our Amazon pages than went to our brand websites. When you start to think through that, and when you start to think through more searches done on Amazon than is done on Google, that starts to help you frame up why it's important for you to represent your brand on e-commerce. One. Two, it's growing a little faster than I think a lot of us thought a couple of years ago, so why not be ahead of it, right? So I mean, how do you get to the consumer, share information, tell your story? And two, if you get there before everybody else, it won't hurt.
The tool that Amazon provides or that is to give a tremendous amount of opportunity to present your brands and your products to a huge amount of traffic and then learn from that traffic. So even if that isn't necessarily where the sale comes from, you can learn a tremendous amount about the shopper and their experience on the e-commerce platform. So from my perspective, it's absolutely critical for going forward for any sales, regardless of where they are in the retail funnel. That online experience is critical.
We take a look right now that 17% of the IRI track categories are delivering, plus 10% of their total sales. Total sales defined as MULO in store plus online sales. That total, 10% of that now is coming from the online space. You factor this in with what we know right now too, that about 69% of the categories that IRI is tracking, the absolute dollar sales online is greater. Absolute dollar sales are greater than what the growth is in store. So in that context here too, it's also now cultivating into it's now driving the only growth in the industry.
So when you think about the role of online for brands, it's a little bit about capturing one of the fastest growing segments, and you want to be grabbing a piece of that revenue, but it's also about creating a moat or recreating the moat. In the brick and mortar world, we have a clear understanding of our brands. We're kind of in our castle. We work with our brands. We sell it to retailers and so on. Online, it's a lot harder to keep that moat around your castle. There's a lot more threats coming in from many different directions. So it's not just about capturing a piece of sales. It's about making sure that you continue to represent your equity and maintain it online. For those brands who are close to the digital native problem, I continue to advocate that brands can still win this. We have every right to win it. We've got bigger organizations, bigger budgets, more research, more shopper and consumer insight.
I work in all different kinds of product categories, everything from like shoes and apparel to hard lines to grocery to consumer electronics. And a lot of this is actually somewhat consistent as far as the challenges that people face and the way that they have to think about this internally in their organizations. Where we see people winning is where they're making heavy investments in e-commerce, not because they're trying to move that needle commensurately to that investment, but because they understand how many touch points the consumer has at these detailed page levels. So they want to be able to capture that search and make their product stand out in that environment, regardless of where the sales happen. And I think that's where we see brands who make that investment and look forward in that way, they impact those categories in very dramatic ways. So it's really about understanding how you need to leverage the platform that's going to make a more significant difference in your future than trying to equate a direct growth with the investment in the short term.